So Michael's over here acting like fucking deep state, trying to censor anything that I will or won't say on a podcast. So that's
It was a pretty rough joke.
Bad joke, and not like offensive. It was a bad dad joke, and it was a bad joke. It was just...
That made me cringe, and I am the lord of the bad pun, so I think you can understand.
Well, it's just like me daddy used to say, you never whole ass anything, you half ass everything until you're a quarter ass.
You've been a quarter ass since the time you were born. You don't have to try hard to get that.
I've been cooped up for a while, guys. I've been left alone to my thoughts. You wouldn't want to leave me alone to my thoughts, would you?
No, true.
I've been stuck in my own head for a while here. Wrote a song about it. Want to hear it? Here goes.
It's just Andy Samberg in the... Have you seen the clip from Brooklyn Nine-Nine where he's interrogating? And it's him with an acoustic guitar playing off-key and just screaming at the perp.
Oh, I think I have. He's just like, he's sitting on a bench or a stool or something?
Yeah.
Ah! Like that?
Did you just clip out everything?
He just clipped out, yep.
Oh, that is amazing. Hey,
whoopsie.
Michael, here's an audio 101. You can't be up on the mic like that and then scream. It doesn't like it.
I want to point out to all of the listeners here that this is our audio engineer. So if you wanted an excuse as to why the quality of this podcast is goddamn dreadful.
Oh,
I have improved, relatively speaking. I still may be shit, but I'm better than I used to be.
And I'm Michael.
And I'm Michael?
By the way, by the eternal, behold. It's the Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
Michael. Michael.
Yeah. Get him, Dad.
To be better, Michael.
Just in case you really want to test the mids and highs on your speakers, just clip that and loop it, and then promptly blow your own brains out.
I mean, the best part was that I didn't clip at all on my mic when I screamed into it. According to Audacity. It didn't give me any of them red peaks.
With such a sophisticated free software.
Well, I was going to say, according to my Audacity, I screamed so hard that Jesus came.
Like ejaculated, not like reappeared, but like...
No, that's the second coming.
Hail Stan.
Yes, Stan. Indeed. Stan's very important. How the hell are you doing, you drunk fox?
I will have you know.
I'm not drunk yet.
You're trying real hard.
That I am on... Well, admittedly, my second beer, but that's just because nothing matters anymore. So, I'm good. I'm not as clouded as last week, so that's nice.
Well, I'll have you know I'm on heroin. So,
and you can clip that, and I will send that to everybody. Shane, do you remember? Not to plow through this real quick, but we had those series of pictures that we took in the studio for what ended up offensively being called a demo EP because of whatever. But it's a series of pictures of Shane with different bottles of liquor and beer in his hand, and he's progressively looking more fucked up in each picture.
And the last one culminates with me holding like 7 different
bottles. They're all laid on his chest, like while it looks like he's sleeping, like drooly. And I found that, like, because Facebook like prompts you like a year later, it prompted me like, hey, you have these pictures, or I found them, and I posted them to Shane's or to his Facebook, and I was like, hashtag never forget, or something silly. And I think within like 2 or 3 hours, Shane
I deleted those fuckers real quick.
Well, no, I think you hit me up and asked me to remove them.
Oh, even better, yes,
because
like,
you could remove your tag,
right?
But you hit me up with the, hey, just so you know that my family, who very much so do not partake or would find this very offensive, are going to think that I actually did this. You will cause me a shitstorm. Please take those down.
It's because, at some point I'm going to hear from my siblings who are going to talk about, how their children will have seen that and, how that's a horrible example for the children. Where it's like, I didn't drink the damn things, but it would take me more effort to explain this to people than it would be to just take the freaking thing down.
But it is still, it still pops up on my Facebook memories. I still have it in the camera roll of every phone that I have once I find them because it brings me so much joy.
You'll have to show me because I really think that they would probably look like a work of art.
They are you could say that they're artistic.
Yeah, or acoustic.
Yeah.
Tomato, potato.
Michael, how are you doing? You seemed very heated in our group chat today.
Well, I won't say much considering that I still think a couple of employees listen to this podcast, but I did not have a great time at work on Wednesday or today, recording Wednesday. May 10th.
Here's fucking Michael time traveling again.
Or 6th.
Gotta hit.
I looked at the wrong calendar day. I was like, June 10th. Yes, it is June 10th today.
So I see that Cinco de Mayo had its lasting effect on you. Apparently,
no. That's the Sharpies on May 4th. That's
Cinco de Drinko.
It's Cinco de Fit. Yeah, whatever.
Are you talking about Cinco de Cuatro?
Yeah. Cinco de Cuatro, the force be with you. Sorry, that was bad.
Susie Quatrain and the Midnight Railers, featuring Michael fucking Clark and his drunk ass.
Oof. No. What
instrument did you play in the band, by the way?
It's actually pronounced Dark Nass.
Dumas.
Marching band. I played the baritone.
The baritone saxophone.
No. Okay, so I know that you are musically inclined because you asked me that question. No, a baritone is a marching euphonium. So it looks like an
Bless you.
It's
the holy fuck are you?
Do you not know what
about?
A euphonium is?
I can't say that I've seen a euphonium.
Isn't that something that you're not supposed to call people that are different than you?
Okay, hold on a second. I will include a link for the show notes. But I'm just gonna look it up real quick just so you guys can see it because saying that it's a trumpet on steroids would not give it justice. So
it's one of those. It's the society that is a perfect society, right? The euphonium.
Sure.
It's what the Russians were trying to make in the 30s.
It's this. It
just looks like a.
Oh, it's a flugelhorn.
No, flugelhorn is smaller. Do I have
smaller.
Of course, it's not going to be a fucking picture of someone holding it. For size references,
he's literally just pulling up.
That's a marching.
Very
okay, well, all right.
Endowed black men.
Yeah, sure. I mean, some of these are black. No, that's a mellophone. That's not even a baritone. What the fuck? There we go. All right, this one right here. That is a baritone, and that is that size. It's about 5-6 pounds, and yes, so that's what I would march with.
Hashtag big brass horns.
Yes. So I'll just include that in the show notes because I don't want to describe it other than it's a trumpet on steroids. Sounds like a euphonium or a trombone. And then when I wasn't marching and I was sitting through, I guess, symphonic shit, I would do bass trombone because I was lazy as shit. And unless the composer didn't know how to write for a bass trombone, I would play the shortest notes I would play were eighth notes.
So the Michael Clark 5 and his big bad bass trombone will be touring this summer.
Mm-hmm. I literally just pull out whole notes and just hold them and sound musical, and then I get to enjoy everyone else playing while I don't have to put any effort into it.
I sure as hell hope you're pulling out.
Sounds like my kind of
see
gig.
What happens.
Minimum effort.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how I got past 10 years of playing instruments like that, but I sure as hell did.
Well,
I would literally... I wouldn't even audition for parts. I would just be like, just give me the lowest part. Like the easiest part. What? I've been in the band for 5 years? I don't care. Just give me the lowest.
Hashtag dream it, achieve it.
Doesn't matter what your dreams are. Just achieve them.
I never applied for leadership. I was like, if they really wanted me to be leadership, they would ask. And they never did. So I was like, cool. It's a sign.
in the famed words of Marge Simpson, aim low. Aim so low that no one will ever care if you succeed.
That is presently how I'm approaching my work life.
Yes, I wanted to ask about that.
I am not going to talk about that on air. That is, I will finally pull the card you both have pulled at one point and said, that is a paywall topic if I've ever had one.
Okay.
I'm feeling a lot better this week.
Okay.
That being said,
that's good. Relatively better is still good.
Yeah. I started learning piano this week.
Really? That's pretty cool.
Speaking of your bass, trumpet, trombone, Liam.
Can you play Hot Cross Buns
Sorry,
yet?
you're speaking of your quantum trombone.
No, get out of here with that quantum shit. It's not quantized.
It's the quantrombone.
Literally, the trombone is like the opposite of quantized instruments because you can slide. Like, you don't have individual buttons that make individual notes. You can literally
Michael,
play
people stopped caring 2 seconds
ago.
ago.
Did you hear that?
That was a sound of everyone tuning out.
That was 6 listeners dying from trying to listen to that.
Yeah.
Becky's dad, for her birthday, got her a 88 key, like a weighted 88 key electric piano. Ooh. They've been talking about it for years, so it's not like one of those like, oh, look, he splurged. It was like, there's been years of build up to this. And I've always wanted to learn how to be an actual proper musician and like maybe know how to read music. And I've always romantically held that I would do that while learning piano. And Becky being herself, she found a really, really good app. It's a paid app called Simply Piano. And it walks you through both like a simple child. And I am a simple child when it comes to a new instrument. So it's been fun and delightfully challenging over the past couple of days. But I know where to put my hands. I know where middle C is. It's going good.
Ooh, there you go.
Well, congratulations.
I know there's a treble and a bass clef now, and I didn't know that before. So, I mean, here we go. I can play Baby Shark.
I'm rolling my eyes hard.
So you know essentially what Simply Piano does, and then I'll stop talking about it because I am aware of how boring it is. It essentially turns learning piano into like DDR or Beat Saber.
Ooh, okay.
So like
I like that concept.
You set your like I put my laptop on the stand, and it'll hear the notes in real time, and it'll show you whether or not you hit the correct note. And it kind of it gives you a score based on how well you did. So it'll be like, hey, I'm teaching you this song. There's 14 sections. You missed one. Okay, you got 12 or 13 out of 14, so on and so forth. And they have like little 5-minute exercises you can do at any point in time. And they give you prereqs to go to different parts. So I can't skip ahead just to be silly. Like I have to do the work. So it's a lot of fun.
Shoot, we should reach out and see if they can sponsor us because, like, I mean, I would love to try something like that. That, like, even for my own instrument, like, if they have a Simply Baritone. I mean, I don't have a baritone, so it wouldn't really matter. But
you can always just put your girlfriend on your lap and hit her real hard until she starts making the right sounds.
Well,
that's Friday night over at the Clark home.
I mean, like, she wouldn't tell me if I was right or wrong. She would probably just be like, "Why the fuck are you hitting me?" And then probably slap me back.
You can hear what she says through the gag.
She's gotten very good at it.
I can't believe that Shane just looked at me like I suddenly was so off base.
Get on your lane. So you said you heard about the treble and the bass clef. Do you know that there's actually an alto and a tenor clef?
Listen, I invented it, so yeah, I knew it existed.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I don't know what I'm doing at this point. I'm just having fun learning music at this point. It's nice to have something to, give me hope.
Oh, that's fair. I'm just being an ass. I mean, they do exist, but unless you're playing like string instruments, like you'll never see them because I didn't know they existed until my ex showed me them. And she played.
Shane, you have been
viola,
just giving glances, sidelong glances.
He's probably ready to hear my rant.
Yeah, speaking of quantum mechanics and quantum instruments and quantum people that are way smarter than you are.
Jerking me off.
I have no idea. By the way, so for the past couple of days, Michael has been popping into the group text about the topic that Shane has him hunting down that Joe Rogan episode. And
two, in fact.
Yeah, and I am not following those episodes, so I am getting all of these off-the-cuff comments that make no sense to me, but Shane and him are having a really pleasant chat about it, or pleasantly agreeing on their grievances about it.
Why is this guy talking about this? It hurts my little brain.
I don't think, since I've known you, Michael, that I've seen you so vocally upset about something, so I'm really excited to turn this over to you, so that hopefully you can do what Shane and I have both done within the past month and just scream at nobody.
So,
well, he's already been screaming previously.
Into the void.
He's established
and then also at my manager today, because, again, don't like work on Wednesdays.
Well, everybody's well adjusted today, apparently.
Wednesdays are 100 times more stressful than any other day of the week. And it's not because it's busier. It's just because of the people I work with, and that's all.
So
I'll
what
say.
You're saying is Wednesday is still hump day. You just happen to be the whole.
Yeah. Okay. I would say that. Sure.
I can dig it. Now, for context, before you start.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's give the context.
The two podcasts that I recommend Michael listen to were one, it's a Joe Rogan podcast where it's Commander David Fravor featuring Jeremy Corbelle, who is the gentleman who made the documentary about Bob Lazar, Area 51, and flying saucers. The other podcast is Bob Lazar, also with Jeremy Corbelle, discussing the documentary that I just mentioned. So, the order was, in release, the Bob Lazar podcast came first. They discussed the events that, surrounded David Fravor, and then Fravor came on as a guest later on. Jeremy Corbelle facilitated bringing David Fravor on. I mentioned them because Bob Lazar happened to work at Los Alamos, which Michael had mentioned in the course of our previous podcast discussion about things he might discuss. So I was keen on just seeing if he had heard about this, if he had gotten anything and thought it would be amusing to put Michael down this rabbit hole. And then he went down the rabbit hole. One, you went out of sequence, so you listened to the David Fravor one first, so the context is a little jumbled. So, with that set up, Michael, tell us your thoughts.
So we'll start with the Commander Fravor.
I just said it 5 times. And
I'm still gonna butcher it. The Commander,
Jesus Christ,
the Navy pilot. He was in the Navy, I believe. But essentially, to give a little bit of backstory, in the
early thousands.
Yes, early
2005, I think.
He was
aughts,
part of
if you will.
No. He was conducting a training he was part of a training exercise, and he noticed him and his flying partner, the other plane, both
the co-pilot, basically.
Sure. No, it was in a different plane.
There are 2 planes flying.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
They both noticed an odd object that was kind of like flying around with them. And at one point, it just took off and covered 60 miles in 60 seconds or something crazy like that. But essentially,
what you should say, so they were going out on a training exercise. There were 2 groups. There was 4 separate planes, essentially. 2 were going out to be the quote-unquote bad guys that were going to run the negative, and then 2 were going to be the good guys, the U.S. representatives. Fravor was in that crew. So the initial group was sent out. They were too far out by the time they'd received this communique from the Nimitz that they were near. And so then Fravor's group were tapped and said, we have a real-world incident. So essentially there is an actual bogey that we want you to go check out, something that popped up on the radar. They didn't have any weapons on the planes when they went out because it's a training exercise. They don't go with any live munition because accidents happen rather frequently. So they're going out to investigate an unknown object, an aerial
an unidentified flying object, or what? I don't know what they call it now.
It's not called that anymore. It's so in any event,
an anomalous flying phenomenon.
As he flew out, there was an object in the water. So essentially they were saying it was a still ocean, and then there's a rather large object in the water, and then this thing that they describe as being tic-tac shaped, which was doing kind of like a crucifix motion over the top of the water in around this rather large object, which they were saying was like a quarter of a mile long, like this giant thing in the water, and then this thing was bouncing around in front of it. Because I know how Michael typically tends to explain things. I'm over-explaining this for the sake of giving better context.
Yeah, no,
he's an idiot, and he flew over and saw some fucking thing flying around.
That's why when you started talking, I immediately shut up, and I'm like,
I appreciate it.
I'll just let him talk because he'll give the context.
So what they're saying is that when they saw the object, they flew down to engage it. As they were flying down, the thing noticed them and flew up and sort of mimicked them. So they were moving around a clock face. Then the thing stopped directly in front of them and immediately just vanished. So they had a visual sort of lock on it, and then it just disappeared. They had no idea where it went, and then they were immediately, I think like in a minute later, they were told from the group that was operating the ship and running their radar that it came up back on the radar 60 miles away from their location.
That's crazy.
Where they were supposed to start or something, or supposed to end.
Yeah, the cap point. So where they were headed to. So that is what happened.
Yes.
While they were doing this, the Wizzo, who's the weapons system operator, was able to lock the thing in on radar and was trying to film it. They did not actually film. But then later in the day, another group that went out were able to actually video the thing that was flying. So they actually caught this thing on camera and showed it, and then showed it flying away. There have been multiple separate incidents that subsequently followed with similar instances of it's apparently the same weapons operator caught another video over on the East Coast.
Grundle? No, not Grundle.
I'm forgetting what
it's
called.
But it's a very...
the gimbal
Gimbal,
video.
thank you.
Yes. So it's an interesting set of circumstances. It's an anomalous flying thing. But mostly, I was intending to get Michael caught up on the gentleman who's a physicist. But whilst we're here, give me your thoughts on the Fravor.
Yes. So I do want to say that I think both videos are easily findable. I probably won't put any effort into finding them, but you can search Tic Tac alien video or Fravor, whatever. The Commander F, like Mr. F, but Commander F. Look him up. You'll find the video, and then
we'll list the Rogan episodes.
Yeah,
in the
and
show
they
notes,
probably
so
will have them. Yeah, exactly. But I will say though, I have a lot of respect for the commander, not because he's in the military or anything, but because of how because a lot of people just automatically have respect for military personnel, and I won't blindly give respect. I will definitely defer to them or whatever, but I'm not going to I'm rambling now. Anyway, I respected his account and his account of the situation because he wasn't immediately saying, "It must be aliens," or anything like that. He was just reporting what he saw, and he gave it in a straightforward, like, let's not hypothesize about anything. And I really enjoyed his account of what happened because he gave it in just a little bit more detail than what you did. So
ultimately, it's just a removed and casual observer giving you an account of events that occurred. He didn't sensationalize it. He didn't blow it out of proportion.
Which I really...
However...
Yes. So his partner, the other host...
Here we go.
He decided to start talking about gravitational waves and repulsion and all this other stuff, and talking about how, and this is why I, messaged you, Shane, when I was listening to it and being like, is he really going to be this much in the way? Because I really thought that's how he just, even I felt like Joe Rogan thought that he was just in the way.
Rogan was really annoyed with him, particularly in the Lazar.
Oh yeah, because
to the end of the Lazar one,
because he would just start mentioning shit, and Joe would be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
He's like, "You're being really vague."
But,
and I don't
but
know
the
why
memo,
you're being vague.
the memo was really important. What the fuck are you talking about?
And I just want to assure everybody that this memorandum is real, and I'm in a position to know these things, and it's real, and it's out there, and a lot of people are talking about this, and it's really important. And I just want to tell you that you heard it here, and I've got a good track record about things. He does that.
So kind of quote you a little bit. The guy's a
yes.
Yeah. I thank you. But I even wrote some notes on how it was mainly physical notes, not necessarily discounting, because I liked what Joe Rogan said about skepticism in both episodes, how the title of skeptic has definitely gotten skewed, and I definitely see that too with I actually don't think I follow any, but there's a large atheist skeptic community on YouTube, and they are very militant. I would almost call them militant atheists. The ones that are they make Dawkins look like a pacifist, like ones that will literally just go up and start yelling at people. I knew a couple of those people in real life, and they actually called me an apatheist, as in I didn't care about my religion or my lack
apathy
thereof.
is what binds us all together, as we talked about last week. I was
gonna say I feel united.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'll take that title. I don't give a shit. I'm not gonna yell at someone just because they believe in something else. As long as it doesn't affect me, I don't give a shit. But essentially, how Joe Rogan approached skepticism is that you immediately search for things to discount, and it's the way that he described it made it almost seem like instead of saying oh, it's a UFO, you immediately start searching for things that's oh, it's a bird, oh, it's a rock, oh, it's a
kind
glitch.
Of your goal is to discredit it. Ultimately, everything you're always angling to discredit something rather than just taking it and assimilating the information and then responding to it appropriately. It's just a blanket sweep. I don't believe this, and here's why.
Yeah. And that's not what I want to do, because I thought about just ways of and the Lazar episode kind of air quotes alleviated some of these concerns, because I was talking about, well, if the thing veered off and rocketed off somewhere else, the sonic boom that would have erupted would have just knocked the plane out of the air. Right. But that was addressed in Lazar's thing. And
here's the thing, the reason that Corbell bothers me so much is that he almost operates as though everything he knows.
Yeah.
So he's operating under the delusion that everybody knows what he's talking about. He doesn't contextualize anything, and he just assumes that, one, you've watched his documentary, or you've listened to the Rogan podcast he had with Lazar, or both, and just doesn't contextualize anything. So they're talking about this, nonlinear propulsion systems and all these other things, and you're like, if you haven't heard the other podcast, none of this makes any sense at all.
Yeah, and
sorry.
Sorry. No, go for it.
I was going to say, because you tackled these 2 Rogan episodes over the past day and a half, 2 days.
I listened to the Commander F one on my Monday shift, and I listened to Lazar earlier today.
Okay, you kind of answered my next question, which is, how do we enjoy listening to our lengthy podcast? There's easy podcasts that you can get an episode out of the way real quick, like Night Vale, Reply All. There's the short form, and then there's long form, and I would say that we border on long form, but then Rogan and then Your Mom's House and Last Pot on the Left, they take that and they explode it into where I think my episode that I need to catch up onto this week is 3 hours long, and I feel like that's an average Rogan episode too. So it always perplexes me and intrigues me what people do while they enjoy their podcast.
For me, my job is exceedingly easy. It honestly, unless we get hit really hard with a million orders at once, which with the quarantine and summer, that's not going to happen. So the only time when I would really be stressed was when it was being not self-inflicted, but inflicted from people. So I was able to, especially because I don't like answering phones. I'll answer them if I need to, but I'd rather sit in the back and make pizzas and take shit out of the oven.
Man,
and
you know what? That kind of
else.
sounds cushy. If your management allows you to have your own thing going on, or if you're just putting in a Bluetooth headphone to kind of skirt around management being privy to what you're doing. God, that kind of sounds dreamlike, because you're not really dealing with customers, you're just doing product fulfillment.
Oh yeah, and I've told this, everyone that I work with knows that's what I care about. I'll answer phones if I absolutely need to. Yes, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, there's 3 lines on hold. Someone should answer that. I'll answer them, but I prefer not to. And I've gotten. There'll be sometimes if I don't particularly like the person, I'll just I'll hear a phone and I'll suddenly have something else to do, or I'll put it on hold and I'll go walk off. But I don't like doing that, especially around people that I actually respect. Anyway, oof. what was I saying? Oh, skepticism. No, we already covered that.
We were moving on to, so we're to the point where essentially you were mostly frustrated by Jeremy Corbelle and his errantly just throwing out random factoids or attempting to titillate the audience with his extensive knowledge of extraterrestrial life and their various accoutrements.
And I definitely liked, and like, I never really had a reason to dislike Joe Rogan, and even though I know he believes a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily, but like, I appreciate how he approaches things, though my one complaint is I don't think he asks the right questions when interviewing people that have deep knowledge about stuff, but that's, I think, more myself. Because he seems like a really good interviewer, and he asks what he is genuinely interested in, which I'll give him credit. Like, that kept me intrigued throughout the whole time, except for when Jeremy opened his fucking mouth. But like, he knew how to keep a story going. He knew like where he should ask questions and where he should make comments. So this is like, I think the Commander F one is like episode 1361 or like 1361 or something like that. Yeah. So Rogan's he knows what he's doing. He knows how to podcast. So I won't say that. I won't sit here on episode 39 and be like, man, I know more about podcasting than he does. No. But
I think by and large the format of his podcast is more of a conversation than it is an interview. I think he's mostly just bringing in people he's intrigued by or has a relationship or rapport with, and then just has a conversation with them. I think the only time I've ever encountered one that was very interview-like, he had Bernie Sanders on when he was initially running, and that was very much kind of an interview. Hey, explain this platform. What would you do here? How do you feel about this? And it was less kind of freeform because it was about an hour running time. It's the only one I've encountered that was that tight. Like I said, at one point, there's a Kevin Smith one where they talked for 4.5 hours.
I can see that. I can see that they both have a lot of stuff that they can vibe on. But the one main quip I have is about like gravitational waves, which I'll save for Lazar. But essentially, the main thing I wanted to say with Commander F is that I really respected how he presented himself and how he presented his account. And I would honestly recommend that episode to anyone that wants to hear like someone try their best to explain a situation that is hard to like account for, because that's not something we deal with in our everyday lives. Is that there's something flying around and we have no fucking idea what it is. Yeah. And I won't sit here and be like, it was a glitch in the Matrix or glitch in their targeting system, or because I don't know. Is that
what was said?
No, they brought it. Joe Rogan, when he was talking about skeptics and skepticism, say that like people that identify as skeptics, not people that are skeptical, because I feel like that is, especially in today's day and age, an important thing to mention. You can be skeptical, but not necessarily identify yourself as a skeptic. It's an
important distinction to make.
Yes,
yeah.
I feel like the term or the title of skeptic almost takes on a negative connotation, at least in the circles that I follow or the circles that I'm in, especially in YouTube.
In the same way that feminist can elicit a negative response from some people, depending upon
where there are definitely different levels of that.
Yeah, and how you interpret it, how it's approached, and
where the more radical elements take over in terms of how the whole concept is presented, the more radical elements will come to the forefront and be the identity or the face of that particular concept or movement.
Well, for those, it's kind of akin to, for those who are familiar with religion, it's like saying you're an orthodox skeptic, as basically you adhere as closely as humanly possible to, I must be skeptical of everything in the world. I will take nothing for granted, and I just poke holes in every boat I can.
Yeah. And I'll say that's kind of my world philosophy, but it's not to poke holes. It's to just be like, well, why do you say that it's a UFO? And I feel like that's a little bit closer to how skepticism should be. You shouldn't be coming up with excuses as to why what they say is wrong, but you should be more like, what is it supposed to be? How can we test this? And that's something that we'll wait until Lazar, because it's going to turn into more like not just ranting about them two, but it's going to be ranting about a lot of stuff. Maybe also partially coronavirus. I was toying with the idea when I got off work earlier is should I rant this while drunk or should I rant this while sober? And I did fall upon the sober aspect, so you won't get the heaviest of hot takes from me, but they'll still be angsty.
Quit with the foreplay and just fuck it already.
Okay, so let's jump into the Lazar thing. So Lazar is a, I don't want to say self-proclaimed, but I have some issues with it. But no, I'm going to say I don't want to say this. It's like, I'm not a racist, but I don't want to say this, but he is a physicist who apparently in the span of, what was it? He went to Los Alamos in 82, and he was involved in this program in 89.
89, yeah.
Yes. In his, you know what? You give the context. Just talk about him. Yeah, I give up.
Give me Cliff Notes, bitch.
So
yeah,
he's a theoretical physicist, I think.
He never said what he was until at one point he said physicist, and that's all.
He was a physicist. He was working on. They described essentially what is housed at Los Alamos, and he was working there at 82. The way that he gives his bona fides is that he created a rocket car. So he built
put
a car
a
that
jet,
had a
he put a jet
engine
engine into his car, and that was it. And he was in the newspaper for it.
Oh wait,
that was essentially his credentials from Los
Alamos. That sounds familiar.
Does it?
It does. Sorry,
you were there. You were the car all along.
I am the walrus. Anyway, what you were saying.
So, in any event, he was, to his claims, recruited from. He left Los Alamos, was doing his own thing, and seeking out other career opportunities, and then was brought in to work at Area S4, which is a subdivision of Area 51 proper, where they were experimenting and trying to replicate technology that they are studying in a collection of flying saucers that have been held by the U.S. government for years and years, is the idea. There are 9 of them, purportedly.
Yes.
Several of which they claim were found on an assortment of archaeological digs, which is intriguing enough on its own, that the ancient alien theorem is being played with.
Sorry, I was doing the alien joke, the ancient aliens meme guy.
Bless you.
Yeah.
So what he goes on to say is that essentially over the course of his time there was some paranoia and delusion based on the lifestyle he was living. His wife began to have an affair. His wife suspected he was having an affair, and that's what sort of prompted her to do so. And so then he was frozen out of the project by the individuals overseeing it, because they wanted to make sure that he was going to be emotionally stable and that his home life was going to solidify before they continued with him.
He also got caught.
Well, here's what happened subsequently. So when he was being frozen out, he then took a bunch of his friends out to the area where they were test flying these saucers, and they were videotaping it so that he would have some other individuals to corroborate his story and protect him in the off chance that he was removed. Because it's kind of difficult to pull because, one, he's having a migraine over the course of the episode. Apparently he has had such agita from having been, one, the government took away his identity. They removed any of his educational records. They apparently destroyed his birth certificate. All of his identity was essentially removed from him once he started outing this project publicly. So he's had death threats from people outside. He's had a lot of difficulties in his life, which they get into somewhat in the documentary as well. Long story short, too bloody late. He had a lot of trepidation about going on the podcast. He didn't want to do it, but he was talked into it by Mr. Jeremy Corbelle, presumably because they wanted to get more exposure for their documentary. So he's having a migraine. He's excessively drinking alcohol to try to sort of coax himself through this. And so he has difficulty with keeping a linear narrative. He loses his train of thought a lot. He also just has long pauses where he's silent and he can't really get his thoughts together. So it's a little difficult to navigate, but essentially he was saying he feared for his life, and that's why he brought friends over that he could expose. And then a journalist then later on down the road, after he was frozen out, sort of found him and started airing his story, and that kind of gets us into a decent sort of compressed ball of his story in general. It's a lot to take in, I know, because again, it's 3 hours worth of discussion.
Yeah, and you just condense it into 5 minutes,
Hopefully.
Yeah. So that was what I was listening to, especially when they went into detail about the specific reactor that generated anti-gravity, and the way that he made it sound. It actually sounded like a nuclear reactor, which also, like, okay. So we'll start with the one thing. I literally stopped what I was doing. I was making a pizza. I heard this, and I literally wrote down a note. So literally, like, he mentioned, yes, he went to Los Alamos, right? He built the jet car, right? Then he went and did his own thing for a couple of years. All right. So, okay. He said he went into industry. He dropped out of the academic field, which makes little to no sense to me, especially if you're working on something as interesting as at Los Alamos. Like, I know a professor, he also works at Los Alamos. He will disappear for times and go there, and I think he's in his 60s, and he's been doing it ever, like, since his 30s. It's a very prestigious place to go. It's a very high ranking, like, you have to be knowledgeable in your field in order to get in there. And
they have a particle accelerator there, right? Am I misremembering that?
They might have. They'll have cyclotrons there because they do a lot of. He was right. They do a lot of nuclear research there. Because
and he describes that reactor as being also like a cyclotron at some point in the course of his discussion. Yeah.
Yes, he does, which is probably the most feasible approach to the topic. But I'm not going to bore you guys with my knowledge.
Bless you.
Yes, that's why most of my notes are kind of invalid at this point. But I literally wrote, so he said that he went to Los Alamos. He said he went to Los Alamos in 82. Okay. Then he was hired to do this project, to be part of this program in 89. Okay. So there was a 7-year gap, right? He mentioned that he was in this program in his 20s. Okay. So I wrote, how the fuck does someone do graduate school? Because they won't just take, like, undergrads in. Like I said, Los Alamos is it's a research facility. It's not a college. Yeah. Like, they're not just going to hire people off the street. They're not going to hire, like, I was thinking that he was an engineer, and that, like, maybe you don't need a doctorate in engineering in order to get hired there. I don't know. But he says he was a physicist. So that means he had to have gone through graduate school, because I think
he went to Caltech, I think is what
he
they
said.
He
had taken classes in Caltech and everything, even though the records aren't there.
Right.
Whatever. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because, like, I'm not going to just immediately discount everything he said. But the main thing that I wanted to address is, how the fuck does someone do graduate school, become good enough in your field to work at Los Alamos in 82, learn how to build a jet engine because they don't teach that shit in physics, quit and do own business. So he owned his own business, or at least one or maybe multiple of those. Then get hired by government for secret projects, all in your 20s. Like, that was the first major warning sign that I was like, something isn't necessarily right here. And I'll give him I'm not going to try and discredit him because there are people better than me that have tried. I don't care. That was the main thing that I'm just like, what is he saying? Like, I don't understand exactly, like, where his narrative is coming from, and it's giving me that dissonance that, like, really isn't vibing with me.
This is the thing that I think they point out at multiple instances during the podcast is that there are so many individuals of your ilk, which is not intended to be condemnatory, but there are a lot of people who they hear his story and immediately start this, where they start poking holes in it. I believe now, having watched the documentary, I can fill in some of the gaps here. He apparently graduated high school early. He was disinterested in a lot of the things, and so was able to. He got into a program earlier. That you would presume, based on some of this, that he was functioning on a higher plane than other people. Now, Michael is rolling his eyes and being rather flippant about this.
Look at him! He graduated college early. Oh, he
what's
probably
college?
He probably was like first in his class, valedictorian, gave a rousing speech.
I just find it funny that I got you into this trying to point out the more interesting aspects of the story to me, which are flying saucers and unheralded things, and you're over here going like, I don't think he graduated college that early. That's ridiculous.
You opened up a very dangerous box in Michael's brain that I don't think either of us could have anticipated being there. Because I feel like you've broken the poor man by just 2 episodes of a podcast.
We apparently pinged a really big inferiority complex here on Mr. Clark, and he's starting to get wound up.
It's kind of like when your friend gets somber when you guys like talk about fingering people because he got fingered as a child.
I mean, that's not too bad of an analogy. As someone that's in there, starting their, that just finished their 10th year of college.
You know what it's like to be fisted financially?
Well, yes, but that's beside the point.
Don't we all?
It's whenever someone graduates early or does all this other stuff, like, it's just like, oh, that would have been nice if I was given that kind of direction and that kind of assistance to where I, would have known to sign up for a fucking test to take so I can get into grad school immediately after I graduated the first time. It didn't have to take 2 more years of a secondary bachelor's so I can, keep trying to get into grad school, but because I wasn't told how to prepare or study for a certain exam to get into grad school. Yes. It was.
Here's the closest correlation me, I can give you. There are at least, even in Phoenix, there's like a child prodigy right now who's 15, who plays every instrument imaginable. He's presently like all over the board. I don't look at that kid and hate him because I'm like, well, what the hell is my opportunity to do this when I was 15? It's like, it doesn't invalidate who you are as a person that someone else has achieved these things.
I know.
If it's even true.
But
take a breath.
Yes, I'll admit there was some bias in that sort of angst, but I will also say that, like, you have to be hot shit to get into Los Alamos.
Right.
Like, the professor that I know that works at Los Alamos, he is hot shit. Like, he is very good in his field.
Did you fuck him?
No.
Sounds like
he
you
probably
wanna
would have
fuck
judged
him.
me harshly and failed me because of
your terrible dick-giving skills?
I took one class
ability?
with him. He usually only teaches graduate school or graduate classes. He was forced to teach Quantum Mechanics 1 2 semesters. I was his first one. The first thing he said to us as a class was like, I never teach undergrad. He didn't say fucking. I hate it. I hate teaching undergrad. So I'm going to grade you guys like graduate students. Essentially, I'm going to give you A and B if you try.
So there's a really big boil here that contains a lot of anger, enmity, and confusion, and we just lanced it.
Yeah, it's not every day that we get to, give you free therapy.
But I will say I respect this professor because he knows what he's talking about. Like, I think that he should help restructure the undergrad program. Will he do that? No, because he's got better things to do. But
at that university we don't name.
Now, additionally, now you're speaking very highly of him. How would you rate his fellatio skills? Were you the one fellating?
It's like he's not, giving Michael head.
It's a power play here. I
Michael
don't think
wouldn't be this angry if he was getting off.
If you enjoy something, you enjoy something. So I do believe that there are people that are in positions of power that instead of getting blown would be like, no, let me slap that hog into my mouth.
Absolutely. Michael wouldn't be this angry if that was happening, though.
Kind of like a perspective manipulation, So,
yes.
Anywho, you were talking about sucking your professor's penis.
Yeah, and but essentially the only thing I want to talk about
thing?
He said this 5 times now and keeps going back to his notes.
Well, all right. Sorry.
So
hey, there's only like 40 minutes of screen time.
Shut up. This is the most I've talked in an episode in
talking?
Like the most I've said. Get out of my life.
He's talking here.
I'm talking here. Whoa.
This is the most talking I've done in an episode in a long time.
You have a fair point. You and I, we have something in common. We're bottlers. I do it with emotions. You do it with words. So let's get this. Let's go.
Yeah. So I only want to say 2 things about the physics. Okay. One of which I didn't really look up, and I even made a note to. But essentially, like, they mention
that's
element
why you don't
115.
work at. That's why you don't work at Los Alamos, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, I'm nowhere near as good enough.
I had a stroke. I'm sorry.
I'm nowhere near as good enough. But damn it! I told myself earlier that I wanted to look into the camera
element?
no. Well, that, and I also wanted to be like, government, if you're listening to me, FBI guy, if you're seeing me through my webcam, if you can hire me onto this project, that'd be really cool because I think I could solve the problem. Just give me a chance, please. You know where to contact me. You already know where I am.
And by the way,
point. But anyway,
birds are fake.
Yeah,
Yes.
they aren't real. If you see one, they are a lie.
So that's the first one. So you're gonna hammer it in 2 more times the rest of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the Isotope 115. I don't like. There's an idea of a I can't remember exactly what it's called, but very, very, very heavy elements that we have not discovered. There is an island of stability, a theoretical island of stability in that very, very heavy. I'm getting too excited. Very heavy elements that we have not synthesized yet here in a lab or wherever are reputed to be stable in that they're not radioactive. They don't break down into smaller elements. As far as I am aware, and future me, looking at you, fucker, will look this up and post some or put something in the show notes for myself, for my own sake, that element 115 does not have any known isotopes that are stable at all.
So the element, if you are looking for it, the element is
moscovium. Because they recently named that. It was discovered,
Yes.
I think, in 2015 or 16, but it was recently named, I believe, in 2017.
In 2003, it was first synthesized, and then in December 2015, recognized as one of 4 new elements. So,
oops. Well, because I remember the podcast that I've mentioned before that I listened to, Hello Internet. One of the co-hosts, he does a channel called Periodic Videos that has been running for 15, 16 years. It's been running for a long ass time.
Okay.
He has videos on every single element, and he was actually invited to the conference. I believe it was in Moscow.
That's
to
great.
Be part of it.
We are in the weeds, Michael. Get the fuck back on point.
So that, and then the one thing I want to mention is gravitational waves. So they did mention in the Lazar episode that they only recently discovered gravitational waves. They were only recently able to detect gravitational waves from, and this is the size comparison that I'm really going to mention, 2 rotating black holes that were colliding and fusing into one big one.
Okay.
So my main question, and this was the question I kept thinking about the whole fucking time he was talking about the reactor. How do you know that it's gravitational waves? How do you know that it's gravity? How do you know that it's anti-gravity? Because this is something that not a lot of people think of, and this is something that I've seen in a lot of sci-fi, especially, and I'll even mention a good example that I can think of, where they just say, oh, it gives off X waves, or it does X. But how do you measure that? How do you figure out how that occurs? We only recently found ways of measuring gravity waves given off by things that are way more massive than stuff that we deal with on Earth. Gravity is a very weak force, right? So how did they know back in that time when we didn't have alien technology to measure and figure out that it was? Like, it could have just been a really good electromagnetic field.
To your point. Now, they contextualize by saying that it is Corbell that brought that point up and told Bob to mention it. Bob didn't say that unbidden. And in the discussion, Corbell even says Bob was unimpressed with the fact that he has been proven correct at this point, where as opposed to thinking that gravity is made up of elements or gravitons, that it's waves, essentially. And Lazar's basically going, I didn't say that for a fact. One, I guessed, and it's a 50-50 chance that I would have said it's not gravitons, which to his point is all he said. So you've got the loudmouthed idiot who's just over there flapping his fucking gums going like, yeah, tell him about the thing that you said, that you talked to Fravor about, where it's like, so it's not Lazar saying this. So you're mad at the wrong person.
That's fair.
And he thinks that it's gravity because they told him that is what it was that they were dealing with, is that it creates a gravity field around it. So he's operating off of, to his claim in the story, what he was told by other individuals, and he said the entire time they compartmentalized the information that they provided to individuals working on the project so that no one ever had a real full story. Now, granted, we can poke holes in that boat all we want to.
Yeah, because I was going to say at the very beginning he was handed a pamphlet that had several other projects that were going on so they can coordinate, but That's neither here nor there.
It's a broad sweeping, just
exactly,
to say,
and
I
don't want to approach that. But that was because I have the best example I can think of is the idea of sensors in any sort of sci-fi, you could say Star Trek or Mass Effect or anything where they have sensors that are reading things before you get there. Well, especially when you're traveling, the best part is when they're traveling at the speed of light and they're reaching a destination or something like that. How do you have sensors that are there beforehand? Did you shoot the sensor out at faster the speed of light?
Right.
How can you read something before you have the ample equipment to read it in the first place? And that was the thing that really bugged me. I won't say that to discredit his story because I don't know, I wasn't there. I'm not going to be like, well, this is all bullshit because I wasn't there. But it doesn't. I don't care about the discrediting. Right. That's the only thing. I'm not going to say his story is invalid, but that was the thing that bugged me the most was that. And you're right. It was mainly Jeremy, which I will give Lazar credit. He did sound knowledgeable in several things. He mentioned talking about load bearing things, specifically about circuits.
And my mother.
Yes. Well, she's not very load bearing anymore. She can only handle
wrong.
so much. But damn it, that distracted what I was saying.
It's there, you for knowing the science and understanding physics are going to obviously be a little more interested and then get hung up by or tripped up by the elements that don't make any sense.
Yes, and that was why.
Continue. I'm sorry.
No. That was why Jeremy bugged me so much.
Yes, and Jeremy is obviously an idiot. So I mean,
yes,
I gave you. I should have probably prefaced by going into this saying, "Don't pay attention to the bearded bastard because he has no clue what he's talking about. He's over there talking about saints that he believes are aliens and random nonsense. Yeah, that man is uncorroborated.
What about the painting where they painted the UFOs in there?
Well, that was Rogan. So.
No, I thought it was Jeremy that brought that up.
Can we go ahead, note to the editor here, and at this point in the timestamp, can you insert the noise that happens in Zelda when he finds an item? I believe it goes something around like ba-ba-na-na-na, because this has been
copyright.
Michael's Science Corner.
Oh, well, okay. Do you want to hear some science philosophy then?
No, I don't.
No, well, okay. All right.
I didn't realize that we were going to get balls deep on this.
I
just thought that
we brought this upon yourself.
For being a free-form episode, this has a topic.
Yes.
It
several,
fucking
in fact.
does.
Now, here's the funny thing, and then we're going to dismount, because
Fine.
Your rant has gotten to, Corbell levels of incoherency, because you're just so worked up that...
Okay, yeah, he just called you a little bitch, and you took it.
Can I...
I will let you have a summation.
Okay. All right, go for it then.
But to strengthen your argument, but also to kind of point out other things, is that Lazar even pokes holes in his own story. We're saying they had radio communication with the craft when it would go up, and he's saying that shouldn't have happened. You shouldn't be able to have radio communication with something that has a gravity field around it. It wouldn't be able to pass. So he even points out there are inconsistencies with what we know. So the easiest sort of calcifying point I can make to Lazar's whole thing is he's essentially saying we don't understand what it was we were working on. There's nothing about this that makes sense to us, and his metaphor he draws, which I thought you would have been more impressed by, is it would be akin to dropping a nuclear reactor into, Victorian England, and then watching them try to take that apart and figure out how it works. They don't have even a vague concept of what it is that they're touching, and that's what he was pointing out. And unfortunately, his story has now just gotten blown out of proportion. Now, he could be an absolute moron, and the context of that podcast doesn't paint him in the best light either.
Yes.
So that is all I will say.
I do feel sorry for him because, I wouldn't want to deal with 30 years of getting constantly harassed about stuff, regardless of anything else, like his identity being removed, all that other stuff.
If we
just
believe
the fact
all
that,
this.
yes, not even counting that, just the fact that you have to wake up and there's 30 more people that are camped outside your door that want to talk to you about aliens.
Yeah,
I feel sorry for the man, especially because he was pressured into talking about this stuff, regardless of its veracity or that. I don't even care about that.
Yeah.
when you're pressured into saying something that you don't necessarily want to say, and then you have to spend the rest of your life dealing with it, like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of anything else, like, I feel sorry for him. Like, at least, yeah.
What are the elements of Mr. Corbell's other things that he pointed out that really chapped your ass? Since you have notes, were there specific things that set you off other than going into the weeds any further?
I mean, not anything that's like, I don't want to get into physics with you guys. But there's
so you will
one thing
me.
Yes, it's not about physics. It's more about how we approach these sort of things.
Okay.
Right? So and what Joe, and I already said this, what Joe Rogan said about skepticism really vibed really well with me, and that made me also think about my own self and approach how I was approaching the episodes in question. Like, I really had to do a double take there, and props to him for thinking that way, regardless of what it applies to. Like, the whole idea of skepticism isn't that you shouldn't outright discount something, but you should try and think of ways that you can test it.
Right.
And that's something that, like, I feel should occur in these sort of situations. Like, oh, there was a Tic Tac thing. We've had reports, because he did mention they have seen, the ship, I believe it was, got reports of other blips on the radar,
right.
other things that they had not identified. They didn't let the pilots know.
Yes.
Which was kind of a dick thing to do. But I don't know the protocols for, what goes on.
Right.
But, like, if there is UFOs and stuff like that, we should test. We should, like, the whole idea behind science is that it's not just one thing. It's not just one sort of phenomenon, like, poof, and it happens, and it's like, oh, now we got to start thinking about what it goes on. Like, we need to recreate it. We need to figure out what happens. And that's something that I feel like a lot of these conspiracy theorists don't take into account. They don't think, oh, it must be aliens, or, oh, it must be the government controlling us. It's like, but how can we recreate it? Like, if there are aliens, sure, whether or not there are, I don't care. Like that, because that doesn't matter to me. Whether, like, the what people suppose, what people assume,
would
doesn't
you say
matter.
It anti-matters to you?
And also,
sure,
just for the record, if it flies, it spies.
Because birds are alive. Oh, well, Michael, thank you for getting round up into a nice, rich, foamy lather here.
And I should have gotten drunk for it. It would have been more
really
coherent.
Shouldn't have. That was...
this...
okay.
The thing that it does for me is that it sort of helps to coagulate this idea, or coalesce, that you and I see things dramatically differently. And I listened to those just from it's an entertaining story. I found this is something that was intriguing enough that I spent time, and obviously I can recount enough details from it that I was interested enough and invested in it. But wow, it offended you almost.
I will say, if Jeremy was not there, not there at all, I would be in the same boat as you. Because they were just recounting what they saw. They weren't saying, let's start coming up with assumptions. Let's start saying that it's all these things. They're like, this is my story. And Joe Rogan's like, cool, that's a story. If that was the case, I would have been like, thanks for sharing that with me. That would have been great. But then Jeremy had to come waltzing in. And
if he was walking through a convention with other scientists, he would be whistling Stranger in Paradise. That's what you're saying.
I don't get the reference, but okay.
All right.
Now, Michael, would you be so kind, before we dive into the rest of what we have on this episode, to maybe play maybe an elevator waltz or a little intermission jingle while I go use the facility?
Or I can just cut it out.
I think
probably like right.
Yeah, we don't need to add dead space into these goddamn things.
I'm not saying for the entire time, but
grow up and go pee already.
I'll probably just say it's an instantaneous piss, so that you should come back right about now.
It all feels like a dream.
Big ball draining dream.
Yeah, so
cool.
Well,
thank you.
I legit thought that discussion was a 15-minute discussion, not a 45-minute discussion.
That was basically the episode, for the most part.
And I honestly didn't even get into a majority of it. I won't. I'll just bottle it up.
I wasn't trying to angle it to where we did a companion piece to their podcast.
You should have said that. You should have prefaced by like, this will be a short bit here, and I've been like, okay, I'll shorten it down here, but
nothing where you're offering an opinion is a short bit, Michael.
Oh, by any means.
So we're gonna swing into a different gear before we do.
I have another gear.
Oh my God! If I
don't break the transmission
there. Talk for 3 fucking seconds today.
Go.
No.
No. Now, how does it feel?
So I'm just gonna give Michael a little bit of role play of how the last hour felt to me. So.
Snore.
Essentially, I'm going to talk about something that you don't know anything about.
I was going to say, I watched John just completely languish that entire time.
I told you what episodes.
Yeah,
so
I can go check it out.
That
I'm not talking too much shit to you, my dear Michael. No more than usual. So Shane, you'll be happy to know that I've past two days I have been playing NBA 2K on my career, so the story mode, and I have a hot take, which is it is not a fucking video game with how they approach, like, ham-fisting a narrative. It's fucking crazy. And so for someone who hasn't played it before, you spend this time, you're allegedly supposed to be able to use a companion app on your phone to scan your face to have your likeness in the video game. Which works.
I've seen pictures of people attempting that.
What
or attempting
they don't
other things.
tell you is that app is literally fucking cancer and does barely work, which is surprising from a AAA video game backed by a corporation that can afford better apps and technology.
Have you played or seen videos of the most recent WWE video game?
No, because I'm an adult.
Shane knows.
I haven't played it, but I heard enough people talk about the graphics. Yeah, it is ghastly.
yeah. Like 2K has got nothing on that. So like that is like
2K is who produced the wrestling game.
Yes, so, I know, but like
so it's the same company. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
But like
so that aside, because the
narrative is ghastly.
The face scan doesn't work for me. The app just doesn't connect, and when it does connect, I've tried the face scan probably like 16 fucking times to the point where every time I get an error message, I have to resist breaking my phone, and the only reason I don't throw my phone is because I went to Reddit as a guide, which is what I usually do with any tech or game or any problem, because it's a good way to kind of suss through fact and fiction for the most part, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Is because Becky was the one holding the phone per Reddit's guidance that someone else should take the pictures for you. If I was holding the phone and got that error message as many times as I had, I would not have a phone right now.
Yep.
Secondary.
Have you thought about the fact that you're too white and that it reflects off your skin?
Yeah, I've considered that, Michael.
Too pale. Yeah. Sorry, pale.
Anyway.
Well, I should mention, I got it to work after like the 16th time of me scanning my own pictures.
Christ. Well, you have more patience.
I look like Forrest Whitaker in that game because one of my eyes is almost permanently shut.
That's amazing.
Like I squint the entire time, and every single time it cuts to me on the like it being interviewed or anything, I'm like, "Hey, what's up?"
So I'll try to make this as short a story as I can.
Please
you can take an hour.
We got plenty of time.
Take an hour. You deserve as much.
So last night, Becky finished up work, and since we are stay at home, she comes down, and I want to be as respectful as I possibly can. I've had all day downstairs to do whatever the fuck I want to do. So, hey, if you want the TV, what do you want to do is the question. Not me, not us, you. Like, what's going to decompress you because you work today.
That's so sweet.
And what she wanted to do is she wanted to learn or use that piano app, Simply Piano, and she wanted to do a couple more lessons. And we moved the piano downstairs yesterday so that I, throughout the day, could start doing that. And, we're probably going to leave it down there for a little bit. So she says that, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'll just play a game. So I boot up 2K, and I start My Career. Fast forward through wanting to kill myself and everyone involved with that game for the character creation.
It's tough.
oh my god, I think I spent an hour and a half bordering 2 hours. Shut up, dog. I spent almost 2 hours playing yesterday.
It's Forrest Whitaker. It's the ghost dog.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah. And I would say in the 2 hours of playtime, I had a basketball on the court for probably 20 minutes of that. And I backed out, and I was about to like go to a different area. And it's like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? It'll throw you right into your NBA career and skip the rest of the prelude. And I said, this is the fucking prelude?
I literally thought of the Stay Alive bit, whereas, can we please skip this bullshit cinematic foreplay? I want to fuck.
Yeah. And from that point forward, I skip almost every cinematic, because I do not give a shit about the ham-fisted story that they're trying to throw into there. Also, the last complaint that I have before I'll say that I'm actually having fun is that in all of this prelude time, they're not teaching you any fundamentals. They just expect that you've played every entry of 2K from the beginning of fucking time, and it is infuriating that they would alienate new members or new players.
They legit think that you're going to play the tutorial. That you are, while the game is loading, going to sit and waste an hour of your life going through the tutorial.
I've gone through the 2K, like the little that tutorial. Yeah, I gave it a passing glance. I'm not going to go analytically study everything. They want you to. I expect a campaign mode, which is what my career is, to naturally teach you those things throughout the game. Like that's what game design is to me.
To their point, they do have team practices when you eventually get to that point, and that's how you learn your skills.
Because I'm officially I'm past the draft. I'm in the summer league right now, and I am doing.
Oh my god!
Yeah, how much?
That is you, dude. You are like a millimeter into that game
right
now.
yeah. You haven't even started the season yet.
Yeah, no. It is a long-winded, all the cinematic stuff at the beginning. Now, to make it even worse, not to derail your story, in the previous iterations of 2K, you could not skip that. You had to go through it. So at least now you can just blitz through that. I've
been itching to talk to you since I started playing last night, but I was figuring I would save it for now. So, in your opinion, have you watched all the cinematics? Is it worth skipping?
Yeah, I don't feel there are aspects of it that you benefit from by like playing in the round robin tournaments and like playing against other college athletes and things like that. So those games that happen are worth getting to, and figuring out who you want to go with as far as like contracts for like your Nike contract, or whether you want to go with Jordan or any of those others. They are demonstrably different. So there are some aspects of it that are worth it. But yeah, no, I skipped a lot of...
I'm talking narrative, like story, like...
Yeah, I skipped most of the narrative shit of like, you have a falling out with your coach and all the other nonsense. It's like, hey, kudos for casting Idris Elba.
Yeah, like, he looks fantastic. The capture, the animation capture is fucking amazing. And Rosario...
Is he the coach?
Yeah, her in particular. It was great. And I'm having fun... at moments.
You just want to play basketball.
Yeah, I want it to be, I hit X to confirm, I hit the confirmation button that yes, I want to continue the summer league or whatever. Right. Okay, this is it, and then we're moving forward. Only other gripe that I have, and please tell me if it comes back into play later. But I think it
comes back into play later.
I think it was the most bullshit thing in the world for when you are getting ready for the compile. They have these like little mini games that are your compile testings.
Yeah,
that
the
they've
combine stuff is
never introduced, never even mentioned, and then they turn them into these bullshit, hard to configure mini games, and they're like, "Well, we'll be easy on you. We'll give you 2 practice runs, and then the third time. So let me." And also, we're going to say the mechanics that we expect you to do, but we're not going to show you the mechanic. We're just going to have it written out because, we have a huge budget for this game, but we spent it all on those two, that actor and that actress. So
Man, I will tell you, Melissa, when she's hearing this, is going to be losing her shit because she's watched me do those, and the bench press
Bullshit
makes me want to destroy the world because the mechanics they never explain. And even when you figure out the mechanics, I think 7 is the highest I've gotten,
and that's
it's
2
because
stars.
you have to like toggle the 2 and balance it so the thing stays in the middle, and it is the most impossibly hard shit. I feel like an imbecile playing that.
Yeah, it was just monstrously demotivating, like going through those. And then maybe it's a design choice though. Maybe it's like, hey, like you're supposed to be like okay but not too good, but then if you're failing every challenge like that, and I didn't fail them all, I did okay luckily on some of them, but like you have all these people approaching you in the narrative, like your agent or whatever the fuck, and just being like, oh well, you know, it's gonna be tough but I think you can do it. It's like, really? Because I've literally done nothing good this entire time, but everyone's sucking my dick because I told Elba to go fuck himself because
It's really nonsense, and like I think the first time I went through those, I got like last place out of the combine scores in half of them. Because they don't explain it, and the sprinting in particular, like the first time you try to get the mechanic of you're trying to do it as fast as humanly possible, and you just fuck it up. Yeah, it's tough.
But anyway, that was my little soapbox for NBA 2K. So soon our characters will be able to play together. But for now,
if it makes you feel even better, so as you go through the season, you have to go in and train to get boosts. So you have to do that every week. You have to go work out at a gym and do squats and bench press and like battle ropes and sprints and stuff with that same mechanic to boost yourself up. Otherwise, you have difficulty competing in games.
It doesn't make me feel as bad because at least it's not just a throwaway mechanic that they introduced for one arbitrary scene. So if it comes back into play and there are opportunities to like kind of refine it, like it's the Dark Souls approach, right? Like I don't care that I am dying all the time as long as you are trying to teach me what to not do.
Yes.
So,
and it's something that you can use
later. If it's not just a skill check just to arbitrarily be a skill check, that's a different thing. So
I don't have the fast twitch muscle fiber.
Yeah. Like I can understand like that frustration with a video game concept is that like if you're going to throw something that's difficult at me, like make it worth my while, like do it again so that like I'm bad at it at the first time, sure, but then I can practice with it, and that by the time I do it during the last part of the game where that's a thing, then I can feel like I've accomplished something.
Yeah,
it's
your rookie year is a real crucible. You have to endure a lot because you are going to be demonstrably worse than a lot of people for at least the first like 20 games.
Okay, well, I'm having fun though. It is hitting it's hitting a criteria that I didn't hope for, but I am happy that it's here. It is going to be a game that I can pop in and out of with relative ease.
That's good.
In other video game news, as far as let's open the poll on what we're doing with our time.
Ooh, I was just going to ask that question.
Additionally to that, Becky and I, we watched season 1 of Mr. Robot. It was her first time watching that, and that went really well. She really enjoys it, and it holds up well. But what we've been focusing on for the past 4 days is we are cooperatively playing The Last of Us. You know, we're just we're couch soloing it because you know it's a single player game, so we're just kind of deciding upgrades together and passing the controller back and forth.
Oh, ooh,
because that's cute. Still my favorite game of all time.
Really?
Of all
I assume
time.
You're gonna be. Yeah. I'm hoping that you haven't. Have you seen the leaks?
I have not. And if you utter
okay,
a
good.
breath
I have.
of them,
No, I have not. I have not, and I'm glad that you haven't either.
Yeah.
So the fill Shane in. Allegedly, a hacker accessed the servers for Naughty Dog, the publishing company, and pretty much found the whole plot to The Last of Us Part 2, which is set to. It was supposed to release last month, but because of COVID, it's set to release later this month, June. I think. June. Okay. So it pretty much released the whole plot, including the end of it. And Naughty Dog has responded by pretty much copyright striking anyone that has presented that information on YouTube.
All right.
So it's been a whole thing.
I mean, part of the fun is playing it, though. I mean,
yeah,
I get
exactly.
it, but...
Like I've made sure that I've not read into any of it because I don't want to catch it because I enjoy.
I don't even look into comment sections on Naughty Dog posts anymore because there are the people that are the digital embodiment of the person running out of Barnes and Nobles after Half-Blood Prince comes out screaming, "Dumbledore dies! Snape kills Dumbledore!"
Spoiler for
No, fuck you. You've had so much. They even made a Cliff Note version for you, you fucking moron. If you haven't, you don't get spoiler warnings for that.
Well, allow me to ruin the mood with a hot take here. I'm not ready for it yet.
What, The Last of Us?
Yeah.
I was gonna say the Half-Blooded Prince.
I had a video pop up on my my timeline of when we were recording Volume 1, and that's when there's videos I have of baby versions of Nocturne in the background of you playing the tutorial or the intro area to The Last of Us. Do you own it?
I do. Yeah, I got it. I played through to the point where you've just discovered the young lady and you're trying to work her through the city, essentially.
Okay.
And I got to that point.
So like very beginning.
Yeah, and I just got, the mechanics didn't thrill me. And
that's fair.
Pre or post Horizon?
Post Horizon.
Okay.
It's a beautiful game. I mean, but it's obviously a little outdated by the comparison.
It can be frustrating to play through.
And I tend to be a creature of habit with video games in that I play it because I want to relax and enjoy it. And if a game frustrates me like that, where Bloodborne is the one exception, Dark Souls has started to will out because I just gave up on Dark Souls after a while. But I mean, Bloodborne was the one where I was willing to redouble the efforts because I was engaged with the game. Last of Us did not hook me for some reason. And it's a beautiful looking game. I like the concept, but like the only other game that requires that level of patience that I've enjoyed was Hitman.
Okay, and I never played Hitman.
I can wait through okay, you can't just outright run and start engaging things with full angry violence. You just have to wait and be patient and pick your moments. I can't. It didn't do anything.
Have you ever played the Uncharted series?
No.
I would recommend that you at least attempt to give it a shot. Especially,
I'd recommend you fuck off.
Well, it's made by Naughty Dog, so the story is very much the same.
It's like an Indiana Jones, basically.
It's yes. If you enjoy the way that the characters are written and how the story plays out, because it's a lot more swashbuckling. Like Indiana Jones is a lot more
as enamored with the dialogue and the character devices and things.
Oh, well, then in that case, then I can just fuck off.
Let me throw some pepper on it. I own the Uncharted collection that has the first 3 remastered. I will loan that to you when our government overlord says it's safe to do so, and you can play through with no commitment. No monetary commitment, which is the sweetening of the pot that you need. Yes. So I will loan that to you next time I physically see your beautiful self in person.
Bless you.
Then I also have, if you do like the 3, I also have
play
Uncharted
Aragon.
4.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'll just put that in your mailbox when you're not looking. I need to get rid of it somehow. But I also have Uncharted 4. So if you lap up all 3 of those and you really like it, I will. I actually bought the PlayStation 4 with the Uncharted 4 like combo thing because it was like really cheap at the time and I had like extra money. But anyway, if you do like them, you can play all 4 for free apparently.
Okay. All right. So and moving on, what are we playing?
Well, I was gonna say
I'll let him.
You stepped on my Sigourney segue.
Oof. Ouch.
So
that's gotta burn.
We'll get back to that. I'll let Michael go, and then I will go with my Sigourney segue.
Okay, that's fine. So, I'm going to ask, and I don't know what the answer I'm expecting. So, have either of you played Metro 2033 or Metro Last Light?
I played 2033, but I played like half of it.
Okay.
Behold, I finally get to be Michael on this podcast. Nope.
Have you read the book?
Nope.
Metro 2033.
It's okay.
Nope.
Well, It is a book.
Nope.
I mean, if you've played even part of the game, you've probably seen that book plastered everywhere you fucking look, posters and books. Okay, so Metro 2033 is a book written by he's a Russian guy. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name.
Sounds about right.
Sure.
Yeah, publish it.
Yes. But anyway, the whole idea is that it's post-apocalyptic. The idea is that World War III happened. Everyone nuked each other. The people that were in the Moscow metro, which is a huge metro, survived.
Glass.
Sure.
Or
but the whole idea,
subway for the Americans amongst us, if you're not a British chap.
Crikey.
Fuck off.
Tea and crumpets and all that. But the whole idea is it follows this character 20 years after that happened, and you play as this guy named Artyom.
It's kind of like if Fallout met BioShock.
Okay.
It's a very atmospheric and depressing. It's a very, very, very depressing and atmospheric game.
Well, I haven't completed either of those games, so
you should read the book, because the book and the first game 2033
give it that kind of advice.
Get out of here.
You should watch your
Well,
mouth.
both the books, because I read 2033 and 2034, both are really good. The video games 2033 and Last Light are also, like, in my opinion, very good. They're survival horror, so if you don't like the whole sneaking around thing, you might not like them. Especially 2033, because it relies a lot more on it plays like you said, like BioShock. So essentially that's what I'm playing. I'm playing Last Light because I bought Metro Exodus a couple, like, last month, 2 months ago, and I wanted to play through 2033 and Last Light again before I got
before Shane's Sigourney segue, if you are looking for a cheap survival horror game on the PlayStation,
I love cheap horse.
Cheap horse.
He said horror, not horror.
Damn it! I'm sorry. I got excited for no reason.
The Resident Evil remaster is $5 until tomorrow. So the listeners won't be able to enjoy it, but I snagged a copy because that is like pinnacle. That is like the OG survival horror. Now,
I have never played it, and it might be worth investigating.
$5 is the price tag you say is the appropriate for a game for you. So
I can swing $5. Yeah.
Anyway, Shane, you were Sigourney segueing?
I was Sigourney segueing, and it is apropos of both what I wanted to talk about and what we are currently talking about. So I, today, rather than playing video games, which I have been playing some 2K still, got to go help my folks continue to clear out their storage unit, which is just a time capsule that I never wanted to have until I started opening these. So I discovered a great many things in boxes, one of which is my completely in original packaging. My original packaging there. My PlayStation 2.
Oh.
Ooh.
Which I also, in previous excursions, found my PlayStation 1, my Super Nintendo, and my NES. So I have every gaming system I have ever owned.
You are, fully stocked.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Retro.
Now,
love it.
It's a lot of fun. So I think I have sold all of my games for all of the previous gaming systems. So Zia, when the quarantine is lifted, I will probably be heading your way to unburden myself of some of these things.
I also have a bunch of PlayStation and PlayStation 2 games that I can give you, honestly, like, if you want them.
Who wants to
I'll
play
give
that
you
trash?
Aragon.
Oh, I'm not taking it anyway.
But no, I have a bunch of games that, like, I have, like, remasters and higher consoles for, so I can give you, like, God of War 2 if you want that.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to go through the trouble of reconnecting all these things and trying to get archaic technology to function on newfangled devices. But
not with that attitude.
In the midst of this, now this is something we may keep in or we may not keep in, but I'm debating whether or not you will find this as interesting or funny as I did, because I have in my hands a letter which I found amongst a bunch of correspondence that I had in a box, because apparently I'm hyper nostalgic for a lot of things. So I had, like, letters I was given by a girl that I corresponded with when I was like 10.
It's a love letter?
I have a love letter in my hands that was given to me, even better, because never let the truth get in the way of a good story, on this exact day, 20 years ago.
Now, that's too goddamn interesting. Do you know what's on there or
what's
no?
funny is that...
Do it.
Oh, I'm going to. But so to
Okay.
contextualize why it's even more funny is it illustrates the facets of my personality which have endured from my teenage years to my adulthood. And I think you gentlemen will... So on Smodcast, they did this. Kevin Smith did like video diaries of himself pre-Clerks. And it's become fabled in the course of like their podcast history, and that emo Kev was discovered. Now, I wish that I had my rebuttal to this young woman, because essentially, to contextualize, I was given this on the last day of school when I was a senior and I was graduating. And this is a young woman who I had been in like journalism class with, and she was very sweet,
So this
very
makes
kind.
you 17, 18?
Yes, I was 18. And so she and I were friendly, and... Long story short, too late, after she gave me this, I realized that she had feelings for me, and we had a whirlwind sort of torrid romance over the summer before I went off to college, and a lot of strange things happened, and a lot of my sort of, like, awakening mentally occurred during the course of this.
And sexually.
No, not sexually. Remember,
It's like
I was a virgin
26.
until I was 26.
Oh, true.
So,
How do I
You're
remember
right.
that?
because I've said it several
bad.
times. But no, it's just interesting for like the context of everything. So
Was-
I will read you this letter.
Was there dry humping?
Yes.
Okay,
I mean,
well.
I was.
If it's
a
not
teenager,
in, it doesn't
come on.
count.
Now
You came
it's
in your
gonna
pants,
Be...
just not on her.
Yes.
Yeah, if it's not inside, it doesn't count.
All right. So this is a 3-page letter. I will burn through this as quickly as possible by dealing with a 17-year-old girl's handwriting that is on pink paper, which is very faded after 20 years.
Oh my
of sitting
god!
in a
How
box.
can you read
Michael.
that would look faded.
Michael, can I get away with this one? Can you
No.
roll music?
I'm just gonna play what he just did over and over
Who
again.
knows what music we're gonna... Please don't do that.
Maybe something that would be in a
God.
Nicholas Sparks movie throughout the
Oh.
whole length of his
Sounds
reading.
like a you problem. If you find a clip that is worthy of being added on, it could be playing right now.
We
So
will never,
the listeners
we won't know
can
until Monday,
know.
So.
The listeners will, though,
All right.
whether or not you were successful in your mission.
Shane,
right,
do you have
so-
a title?
I do not.
All right, so this is
Can
untitled.
you title it?
Untitled, because as it were, I think if we had my retort to this letter, it would probably make it a little easier for me to come up with the context here. But so I just find this is more for the fact that, again, there are aspects of my personality displayed by this letter rather than the grandiosity of me pointing out the nice things that she says about me or things like this. So this isn't for my ego. It's mostly because you'll find this funny.
I love it.
Oh, yeah, that's what I assumed at the
You've
get-go.
officially
All right.
made my week. Let's do this.
So,
Let's
trust
do
me, it tickled me to death when I was looking through these things. The sheer volume of shit that I have saved over the course of my life is staggering. All right, Shane. Hey, well, I'm not exactly sure of where to begin, so I guess I'll just dive in. You know those voices in your head that always seem to be arguing? Well, mine are in an all-out battle. Half of them are telling me to stop writing, and the other half are telling me that if I even think about it, they will kick my butt. I can't wait to see who will win the war, but until then, I'll just keep writing. Today, I realize that there are 2 types of people in this world. One like my mom, and one like my dad. You're either cruel with good intentions, or nice with selfish intentions. I have not, as of yet, found any exception to the rule. If you know of any, I would like to know. In my yearbook, you said that you hoped that you would have made some sort of an impression on my life. Well, that is an understatement. There is no godly way to explain it, so my attempt would never be able to say exactly what I want to. Oh well. Why is it that whenever you're around, there seems to be hordes of people at your heels ready to obey your every command? You once told me that you feel uncomfortable in any social situation in which there are lots of people, yet I think that you will never be able to have a level of comfort. There will always be a semi-loyal groupie hanging on your every word, even if you lost her at high. Just remember, you have no obligation to anyone. You really should give up the aimless flirting.
Oh, man.
Shots fired.
Damn.
Don't be afraid to say no once in a while, because I know you are. Don't be around people you hate either. They make you bitter, and that's when your alter ego comes into play. I don't like him much.
I've seen it.
I'm selling you, like, it's... This,
I think I've seen him.
This is such a weird reflection of me personally that, like, I read it and it's an emotional roller coaster for me to get through this letter.
Jeez.
Her handwriting changes at this point, which is even more frightening because it's been mostly block print and now it's in cursive. It was like, well, that's as much lecturing as I have the energy to do. All right. You are the single most intelligent person I have ever met. I did not say that just, for my own ego here. I love how you flaunt it to people who need a good kick in the mouth, and you deny it amongst people you consider to be your friends.
God damn.
Which, again, aspects of my personality I'm not entirely comfortable with. But so you will encounter people who will try to change you, but only allow change where change is due. I'll skip this because I don't think that's really something that you all need to know.
No.
Talking about your dick
Penis.
size?
No. She indicates I am the inspiration for many of her poetic blunders. I was the editor of the high school literary magazine.
That's very
so,
sweet.
yeah,
I'll
just leave some of that away. But,
Yeah.
this thing has taken so long to write. I have to stop every 2 minutes because I'm on the verge of tears. And I don't intend to make light of this, and so forgive me, please, young woman, or middle-aged woman by the time we all get to this. But, this was not intended to mock or anything. It's just interesting find.
Cute.
So, it's just,
It's adorable.
I didn't
like
think
it.
that this was going to have such a great effect on me. How do you do it? I find myself in one of my contemplations, and there you pop up, every time. It doesn't matter what I started to think about, the subject always ends on you. No one has ever had that kind of effect on me. Whatever it is that you do it well. Aha. Why is life so cruel? Oh well, it's going to be how it's going to be. Can't change fate. I think I'm going to have to change my music collection, though. I don't think heavy metal will remind me of you. There you go for a dead belief. Sorry about the distancing, yada yada. So this, we didn't talk much as we were building
year-end
towards
apologies.
Yeah, basically. So when I was around you, I didn't exactly know what I was supposed to say. Your constant appearance in my thoughts made me put you on a fairly high pedestal that I told myself I could never reach without falling. You are fast approaching God status.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow. Shit.
You will be missed. I can promise you that things sure won't be the same without you here. If you haven't already figured it out, this is my feeble attempt to make you remember me. Oh God. Fantastic woman.
Well, I just had shivers. That was
Yeah, I was like, wow,
because
that actually
here we are
is
20
very
years later, and she has accomplished her goal.
Without question, being immortalized, in fact. But for the 15 people that will hear this,
hey, immortality is immortality, so.
Damn straight. Imagine immortality, John.
Oh.
So,
I don't get the reference.
I suppose that is inevitable. But I'm not going down without a fight. Email me sometime. Now, this is even funnier because I was on the cusp of, in my high school career, went from when we had to write letters to friends and when you could actually email people. So in most of the letters I found, it was from people I went to high school with my senior year, giving me their email address for the first time in a letter that was sent to my home so we could correspond further without having to, put postage on it.
Wouldn't it be crazy if you sent an email to her and it actually was the same email? Like she hasn't changed emails?
Ooh.
It would indeed. That's quite something. But here, this is why you will appreciate this. And this was the parting shot for this whole bit that I knew that you would love, other than the other ones. But email me sometime, her email address. You'll have to conform to the ways of the web at some point, unless you're serious about that Amish thing.
Wow. That is the most Shane thing of all time. So
I love it.
Nothing's changed, gentlemen.
God, you're just opening up Pandora's box, basically, by reading that letter, because now there's so many questions. And, Well, I guess the easiest question to ask is, have you followed up prior to rediscovering that letter?
We had occasion to correspond whilst I was in college, and I think the last time I spoke to her, I was in my mid-20s, and I think that was where we fell off the map. I believe she got married, and I was riding a very odd emotional roller coaster at that point, and so yeah, we haven't spoken in years, but finding that was very entertaining.
I imagine so. Thank you for sharing that. That was very, very
that was
cool, to be honest.
I mean, if there's anything to pop up on a podcast that we're doing, I would think that something that dates me to the exact time and place 20 years ago and where I was a pretty entertaining find. But yeah, still a curmudgeonly bastard who has multiple personality disorder and doesn't like the internet. So,
but you have the internet
apparently
now.
He's got a bunch of followers too.
That bit gets me a lot because it actually holds weight.
What's funny is that immediately after that is the group of as we read My Immortal, I have random flashbacks to my random gaggle of goth groupies that were following me around in my mid-20s. So it wills out.
I didn't think that it would hit you so strongly. Well, I mean, it's also cute that especially considering we know how how it turned out. You guys were in a relationship for that summer, so it was a cool it was an interesting read, considering that we already knew how it kind of turned out, which was it was cute.
I mean, it had the desired effect in all aspects of looking at that letter. She got everything she wanted out of it, and probably some of it that she wished she wouldn't have gotten. Unfortunately, I'm sure for anyone who has dealt with me for a significant amount of time.
We'll leave it to you to draw an intellectual, because it's still a really well-written letter. And very insightful, too. The very first bit, the first chunk, even though it's peppered with teenage angst, which is to be expected, still is pretty eloquent. So, yeah.
And I think she was 16 at the time.
So, kudos to 20-year-old you and 16-year-old her, because that's
18. Thank you.
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Thank
yes,
you.
Time capsule Shane. There we go.
I'm not trying to say. I'm not trying to say that you're predatory. That's not what I'm trying to say.
I'm just gonna say oof. I just leave it at that.
As everyone knows, I did in fact have a relationship at age 28 with someone who was 18. So I mean that happened. No, she was 19. So
I didn't know that, but
it does without question.
It definitely does. And I think that this is the best Sigourney segue into our reading.
I was going to say the joys of teenage angst, I felt, was a good parallel to get from, my year 7 at Hogwarts to now Ebony's year 7 at Hogwarts.
Last we left our traveling troupe of emo goth troubadours.
I wrote start on the chapter with an exclamation point.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yes. So do we want to set expectations based on where we are lengthwise? We think in a chapter 2?
I think these are very short chapters. I think we can very easily get through a decent chunk of this. So for those who did not catch up, but here's hoping you've listened to all of last week's episode.
Previously on?
Yes, obviously we have to. So, previously on My Immortal, we had Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way was taken into the Forbidden Forest by Draco Malfoy following their attending the Good Charlotte concert someplace. It is never told to us where the concert was.
It's in Hogsmeade.
Yes, but then she just says we got into his flying Mercedes-Benz and went to the place the concert was. So in any event, we left on a cliffhanger where Draco is driving her into the Forbidden Forest, and we start without any preamble. We go right into dialogue here as we begin chapter 4.
Draco, what the fuck do you think you're doing?
Draco didn't answer, but he stopped the flying car, and we walked out of it. I walked out of it, too. curiously.
What the fucking hell?
I asked angrily.
Everything.
He asked.
What?
I snapped. Draco leaned in extra close, and I looked into his gothic red eyes. Parenthetical, he was wearing color contacts, which revealed so much depressing sorrow and evilness, and then suddenly, I didn't feel mad anymore. And then, suddenly, just as Draco kissed me passionately, Draco climbed on top of me, and we started to make out keenly against a tree. He took of my top, and I took of his clothes. I even took of my bra. Then he put his thingy into my who-know-what, and we did it for the first time.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
I screamed. I was beginning to get an orgasm. We started to kiss everywhere, and my pale body became all warm. And then...
What the hell are you doing, you motherfuckers?
It was Dumbledore.
So, I'm gonna say, it's kind of like a Gandalf thing. It's kind of its own thing. Also, I didn't prep because I figured it'd be better that way.
Oh, I also should say,
like that.
motherfuckers should never have trusted you. So...
It felt actually more Gandalf than Dumbledore. Like, honestly, when you said that, I'm like, I can see that as being Gandalf.
Now,
What the hell are you doing?
So much to unpack in such a short chapter.
Are you talking about Draco to be unpacked there?
No, I'm more talking about the communion, the ritual. Because she took of her top, she took of his clothes, and even took of her bra. It feels very biblical.
It is a
That's
sacrament.
a good point.
I agree. It's this is their body. They ate of it, and since they are both gothic vampires, it makes sense.
I like that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone give that take to it. Like that gives it a lot more weight to the significance of their first lovemaking.
And I will say, as evidenced by earlier in this very podcast episode, I am no stranger to the ways of physical love, but I have never made out keenly against a tree. And that, gentlemen, boiled my blood a bit, admittedly.
Well, I don't think we should pepper too much more analysis onto
I agree.
onto this, for at least that chapter.
You nailed it pretty well.
I am an expert genius.
Almost as well as Draco
we have
nailed.
covered this multiple times on this podcast that I am a genius. So
it's like a Hosier song here that occurs. It's just they took of each other.
Yeah.
So now, John, you were saying?
Oh no, I was ready to proceed.
All right. Well then, I am prepared to give you Chapter 5. Dumbledore made and Draco and I follow him. He kept shouting at us angrily.
You ludicrous fools!
He shouted. I started to cry tears of blood down my pallid face. Draco comforted me. When we went back to the castle, Dumbledore took us to Professor Snape and Professor McGonagall, who were both looking very angry.
They were having sexual intercourse in the Forbidden Forest!
He yelled in a furious voice.
Why did you do such a thing, you mediocre dunces?
Asked Professor McGonagall.
How dare you?
Demanded Professor Snape. And then Draco shrieked.
Because I love her!
Everyone was quiet. Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall still looked mad. But Professor Snape said,
Fine, very well. You may go up to your rooms.
Draco and I went upstairs, while the teachers glared at us.
Are you okay, Eppie?
Draco asked me gently.
Yeah, I guess.
I lied. I went to the girls' dorm and brushed my teeth and my hair, and changed into a low-cut, black, floor-length dress with red lace all around it and black high heels. When I came out, Draco was standing in front of the bathroom, and he started to sing I Just Wanna Live by Good Charlotte. I was so flattered, even though he wasn't supposed to be there. We hugged and kissed. After that, we said goodnight, and he reluctantly went back into his room. How touching.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a physical
Very
sense.
Sweet.
Again.
Almost as sweet as that leather.
Leather?
That leather.
Yes.
Almost as sweet
Yes.
as that leather. When did you turn into Draco? What's happening here?
Apparently so.
What a misunderstood guy with too much cerebral spinal fluid.
Oh, our chronic encephalopathy here. Michael, stop smoking that blunt. Goddamn.
Oh, that was a heavy hit there.
Nope, nope.
Woo-wee!
Yeah, that meth sure hit different though, don't it?
Damn, I don't think that was meth. There was something else in there. I'll tell you what.
I didn't know you like to get wet, though.
Woo!
PCP. Dust.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. I need to make sure that Becky's seen that movie. Just
it's
as
a
an
good call.
excuse to rewatch it, because it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's so marvelous.
But anyhow, it just feels tragic almost. Feels like there's a loss of innocence happening. I don't know. And anybody, I gotta give props to my man Draco, because getting through all of the lyrics and melody to I Want to Live, I Still Want to Live by Good Charlotte, just a cappella, just for the love of the game, that's, go you.
I mean, reminiscent of, Say Anything, where you've got Lloyd Dobler hoisting aloft his boombox and professing his love with Peter Gabriel. We fall far short of that with Good Charlotte, but I mean, at least he's trying.
Yeah, that's all. That's all we can ever do. So
you try.
So I think I am a Draco, not just the voice. I think I am Team Draco in this story. So
okay,
ride or die, Team Draco and his 666 vehicle.
That's definitely Team Dumbledore here.
That's actually really funny that you say Team Draco, because, and we're going to read the next chapter, things are going to get a little spicy.
Do we have it? Does this end on a cliffhanger? Does this get us to our natural spot?
I would say chapter 7 is probably a better cliffhanger.
Okay.
But they're both very short.
Yeah, these are very compressed from what I remember when I was scrolling. So yes. All right.
Well, our editor said it's okay to proceed, so.
Moving on. Chapter 6. The next day, I woke in my coffin. I put on a black miniskirt that was all ripped around the end, and a matching top with red skulls all over it, and high-heeled boots that were black. I put on 2 pairs of skull earrings and 2 crosses in my ears. I spray-painted my hair with purple. In the Great Hall, I ate some Count Chocula cereal with blood instead of milk, and a glass of red blood. Suddenly someone bumped into me. All the blood spilled over my top.
Bastard!
I shouted angrily. I regretted saying it when I looked up, because I was looking into the pale white face of a gothic boy with spiky black hair with red streaks in it. He was wearing so much eyeliner that I was going down his face, and he was wearing black lipstick. He didn't have glasses anymore, and now he was wearing red contact lenses, just like Draco's, and there was no scar on his forehead anymore. He had a manly stubble on his chin. He had a sexy English accent. He looked exactly like Joel Madden. He was so sexy that my body went all hot when I saw him, kind of like an erection, only I'm a girl, so I didn't get one, you sicko.
I'm so sorry,
he said in a shy voice.
That's all right. What's your name?
I questioned.
My name's Harry Potter, although most people call me Vampire these days.
He grumbled.
Why?
I exclaimed.
Because I love the taste of human blood.
He giggled.
Well, I am a vampire.
I confessed.
Really?
He stepped on my line. He whimpered.
Yeah.
I roared. We sat down to talk for a while. Then Draco came up behind me and told me he had a surprise for me. So I went away with him.
Sorry, had a little lump in my throat.
Really?
So it's great that you mentioned Team Draco.
Oh,
because...
I didn't even know what was happening.
Oh, the Twilight Saga lives on.
Oh boy, does it ever.
Ebony failed to mention that Harry wears a comical headdress akin to George Washington.
I thought you were going to say, it was more akin to that squirrely professor from the first book.
Professor Squirrely?
Professor Squirrely.
Yes, Professor Squirrely, who wore the turban for, reasons that will be explained later.
Shane, you have evidence of being a genius. So what do you think's happening here? What do you think is being set up? And
well, I believe that we want to try to show, like versus like here. And, so we have certain aspects of her personality that she sees in Draco, as, shown by the emo music that they both enjoy and the intercourse. But now she's met someone who titillates the more visceral aspects of her personality, her bloodlust, if you will. And so she's now torn in a battle betwixt aspects of herself that she loves. And isn't this ultimately what we all struggle with, is reconciling the parts of ourselves that we feel are right for consumption for everyone else in the world, and the things that we really wish we could indulge in, like John's fetish porn?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get off anymore unless they are crying and hardly breathing. It's really escalated.
Well, lucky for you, one of your exes happens to be working as a mortician, so, you can do both fetishes all at once.
Now, we are going to continue this read. However, our banned Instagram account follows her. And
I just saw her emotional breakdown the other day, so I'm sure you were going there. Yes, I shared that moment with you.
Dude, yeah. I would never hope... And again, in our relationship, we didn't do anything to each other that would instill this kind of hatred for me, but I think what it is the concept that we've talked about before. I'm looking on the past and being embarrassed by it. So the further the distance and the more time that has elapsed between myself and this woman, the more I realized just how much of a bizarre bird she is. But that's neither here nor there. She does fit into this story. She does remind me of an Ebony Darkness.
She certainly does. That is who I've cast in the role in my head right now.
What if she wrote this?
It's possible. I wouldn't put it past her.
It uses her exact understanding of grammar.
Now, we would be about their age because it was written in 2006, I think.
Don't loop me in with you.
You would have been a little bit on the older side, but
a little bit.
Just a tad.
What if this is her first foray into doing work and not getting paid for it?
It is.
Did she ever go by a Tara or a Gillespie?
Well,
obviously that's a pseudonym, Michael.
I'll have to search Pornhub for it to see if I see my own cock there somewhere.
Bloody Tears 666. Fine, that's actually John's.
I didn't even choke on a beer.
I am still waiting for the day. It's gonna happen.
John's OnlyFans is now gonna be called Bloody Tears 666. So
it's actually gonna be called. It's actually gonna be called Butt Cheese 6969669.
Hey, I will sue. I will be like, that is not your
trademark
intellectual property,
my friend.
I've already submitted it.
Well,
it's already trademarked. Thank you.
So we have established that John's ex officially wrote this story, and we don't have to feel bad about making fun of it anymore.
That is now officially canon, and you can't take that back.
It is headcanon.
I agree.
And by headcanon, we mean she gave him head at one point.
Canon.
Now, whomever is moving their cursor over the text, please stop doing so, because it is showing me the name of the person editing the document, and it's interrupting, so quit it.
It ain't me. because you can see that my name is Mike.
Stop moving your cursor, you son of a bitch.
That might be me because I'm scrolling down with it because I don't have that much screen space.
Okay.
Yes.
Because there's only 2 people on here.
All right. So here we are. Everyone brace. Chapter 7. Bring Me to Life. Draco and I held our pale white hands with black nail polish as we went upstairs. I was wearing red Satanist sings on my nails in red nail polish. I waved to Vampire. Dark misery was in his depressed eyes. I guess he was jealous of me that I was going out with Draco. Anyway, I went upstairs excitedly with Draco. We went into his room and locked the door. Then we started Frenching passively, and we took off each other's clothes enthusiastically. He felt me up before I took off my top. Then I took off my black leather bra, and he took off his pants. We went on the bed and started making out, naked. And then he put his boy's thingy in mine, and we had sex.
Oh, Draco! Draco!
I screamed while getting an orgasm, when all of a sudden I saw a tattoo I had never seen before on Draco's arm. It was a black heart with an arrow through it. On it, in bloody Gothic writing, were the words, Vampire. I was so angry.
You bastard!
I shouted angrily, jumping out of bed.
No, but you don't understand.
He pleaded, but I knew too much.
No, you fucking idiot! You probably have AIDS anyway!
I shouted. I put on my clothes all huffily, and then stomped out. Draco ran out even though he was naked. He had a really big you-know-what, but I was too mad to care. I stomped out and did so until I was in Vampire's classroom, where he was having a lesson with Professor Snape and some other people.
Vampire Potter, you motherfucker!
End chapter 7.
Wow, that is a cliffhanger.
Or a dick hanger, if you will.
Yeah, I'm a wreck right now.
So was she.
In both ways. Reckon.
They wrecked him, damn near killed him.
Much like part 1 of the reading, it started off very analytical, but then there's just too much action. There's too much passion to really to dive deep. You know, it is what it is. There's betrayal, there's love, there's teams.
But I mean, we've also got to deal with the fact that Draco is also a man torn. So as much as Ebony found herself being torn betwixt her, feelings of lust for her 2 lovers, we also now have Draco, who is sitting on the fence quite literally between both loving the Draco Malfoy and the Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven way. So
you mean the other way? Draco doesn't love himself; he loves vampire.
Yeah,
I said vampire.
Oh,
I don't know. I mean,
I heard Draco.
I may have said Draco. Forgive me.
In some way, I mean, if you are Team Draco at this point, it means you are a team of both Draco and Vampire Potter because they are their own thing. So, I mean, I'm curious for the continuation of the series, what that looks like. Maybe they're the protagonist and Ebony is actually the antagonist of the story, trying to keep 2 lovers apart.
Here's my thing, though, is when the both of them are passionately looking into one another's eyes, do they say, "Wands ready"?
Wands at the ready.
Indeed.
And yes, they do, except Draco probably says something like this.
Wands at the ready.
Let's be real.
Take me, vampire.
Hold on. Predictions. Draco's a power bottom.
And how?
Ooh, that is a good prediction.
No, here's the difficulty, though, is if Draco's on the bottom, all the blood's going to rush into his head, and that'll kill him. He's like Rocky Dennis in Mask. It's just he's going to have this giant watermelon head.
Or, Jesus.
John Merrick, the Elephant Man. He'll just be dead the moment that he turns over.
Deacon Frost at the end of Blade.
Yes.
When he gets shot with the serum.
Yes.
Well,
the EDT, the anticoagulant, which was actually just featured in the How to Make a Murderer episode that I watched last night. So
Okay.
there's some fun correlation there. But
So
it's I'm enjoying this, gentlemen. It is a lot of fun.
you know what I'm actually looking forward to more than recording this?
Playing piano with your wife?
No, is Michael having to edit this. And then additionally, I am looking forward to, and now this is canon, the supercut that is going to happen. Where
Yes.
there's no episode to bury this content.
Yes, I think by the time we get to the point where this finally gets, meshed and we've got the reading straight and the audiobook of My Immortal as performed by the dear folks from the Disinformed podcast, it's going to be worthy of us having, the My OnlyFans account to put that on. Screw this Patreon
yes.
nonsense. I feel like OnlyFans
Yeah,
has
I
become
feel
our lane.
like that's the future. Yeah, I really do.
I actually would like that if we instead of doing Patreon, we did OnlyFans. But
Well,
treated it
OnlyFans
like
is
that.
also a British site, which is how
Really?
they get around some of the prostitution laws. So, it's appropriate that we would then
Which is
put
odd
a
because I
British
thought they
thing here.
had. I thought they had a more stringent prostitution laws.
Well, I mean, they don't for Americans.
Oh.
Oh, dear.
Oh, shit.
International peace accords have to be signed for people to get, sued for this nonsense. So,
Huh,
So, Michael,
fair enough.
I have one question for you, and this will be my final question.
And I have one final answer for you, and it will only be my only answer.
What do
I
you
guess. I
think
don't know.
future Michael's feeling at the end of this right now, knowing that it is by far the longest episode, and you walked into it not knowing that it would be, and that it is past Michael's fault that this track time is so long?
I think what I will do is I will probably message you the answer of how then present me will be feeling, especially because I want to try and edit this tonight. That probably won't fucking happen. Because, and Shane might be able to appreciate
Because birds
this,
aren't real?
finals?
Ooh, thank you. My professor had me assigned to me a project to read and edit a master's thesis starting yesterday that I have to do by tomorrow
Holy
at around
Jesus.
3 something. So that's going to be fun. So I'm like, well, I don't think I'm going to attempt it tonight, so I can edit tonight so I can start fresh in the morning. Yeah, so fuck me. All right. But I'll respond to it.
Well,
I'm going to try and
also,
drink
we're-
a bunch of coffee.
I'm really
hit it
proud of you
tonight.
for actually, for once, using that pretty expensive microphone that you have that clearly works just as good, if
I told
not
you!
worse, than Shane and I's.
I told you it works. It's all just me.
Well,
Wait.
the nice thing is
I said the other way.
It may not actually be the longest because by the time we edit out the, several of the things that occurred over the course of this, we're
No,
going to
it's
cut that
gonna
running
be-
time.
It's going to be
basically.
over 2 hours.
Yeah.
I don't. Have we broken over 2 hours
Yes,
before?
we have.
But this
Oh,
is well
well.
over.
It's probably going to be close to. By the time we do all of our outro shit, it's going to be close to
Which,
in 10
speaking
minutes.
of, we might as well just roll music.
End
I'm
me,
the guy rolling the
please.
music today, by the way. So roll music.
No, you fucking aren't. Oh no, you aren't. Ain't. Sorry, I gotta. Oh no, you ain't.
Yeah, it's Trump. It's
trying to
Trump's
be ebony
America,
there.
you fucking pleb. So let's.
I will send this file to you and be like, put outro music, bitch.
Also, fuck
Okay.
Let me
Shane,
get to
take
know
us out.
you, damn it.
Please end me.
Pull it out. I'm gonna come.
I already came. Plan B. Plan B, Shane.
If
Hold the
you pull
pillow.
out, you would be a lot better off than trying to buy that damn pill, you baby killer. Well, ladies and germaphobes, thank you for enduring this now 7-hour podcast that you have just listened to. We hope that you have enjoyed it as much as we have enjoyed laying it down, just like Ebony was getting laid down by that big dick Draco.
He had a big you-know-what, if you know what I mean.
Yes,
God's
but
way
this-
of making up for his mistakes.
So what you're saying is the wand chooses the wizard, as we've said on many occasions. If you're dear God, we've killed Michael. If you're enjoying the retching noises that you're hearing in the background, then you can find us on your preferred podcast platform. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this, because we could use the boost. We need all the help we can get after this bullshit. And if you like what we do, rate and review. Tell us what you think about this bloody little show. Give us some feedback. We would love to hear it for once. It'd be very nice. If you want to see what we're doing on the social networks, for the three of you that are going to hit a like button from time to time, we would really appreciate that as well. Because, hey, if we can't harass you for loving this show, we don't want to make it and record it any longer. So, find us at facebook.com/disinformedpodcast. On Instagram, we are at disinformedpodcast. And on the Twitters, at disinformedpod. Give us your thoughts. We need them on our face, neck, and chest. So, I believe, for the Disinformed podcast, for Bob Lazar, for Jeremy Corbelle, and Commander David Fravor, and Joe Rogan, I'm Shane.
I'm John. I'm John.
And I'm Ebony. I'm Michael.
This is Pancakes!
Thank you for coming, everybody. Don't worry, Draco will swallow it.
Most likely.